Oke, sudah live YouTube.
Sudah live YouTube.
Ya, oke. Oke, monggo bukannya untuk menjadi moderator, silahkan.
Atau langsung bukannya aja, enggak usah
langsung,
saya.
Langsung bukannya. Monggo bukannya bisa.
Okay, Professor Lee, we will start the webinar now.
Yeah, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Prof.
Good morning, Prof. Lee.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, dan salam kebajikan. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kanya, and I will be helping to conduct our webinar today. First of all, I would like to say thank you to Professor Lee, our keynote speaker today, Dr. Martadi, head of Unesa's vocational program, all lecturer, and all of the participants for finding time and attending today's webinar. Our topic today is the shock of the new graphic design era, starting from the early 20th century. Before we get started, we'll be playing our national anthem, Indonesia Raya. Sorry, Mas Widian, tidak terdengar suaranya.
Halo, Mas. Oh, iya.
Okay, sorry, apparently we have a technical problem.
Yeah, it's all right.
Okay, try again. I can try again.
Now we'll be playing our university anthem. Okay, thank you, Mr. Widian, for helping us. Before we get to the main event, there will be some speech given by our department head, Miss Asid. Please welcome, Miss Asid.
Bukannya, maaf, sebelumnya speech-nya langsung ke Pak Martadi mawon.
Oh, langsung ke Pak Martadi. Oke, Bu.
Untuk mempersingkat waktu.
Okay, sorry. Apparently, we will not have a speech from Miss Asid, but we will have opening speech from the head of Unesa's vocational program, Dr. Martadi. Please welcome Dr. Martadi.
Thanks, Miss Tanya. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. The honorable guest lecturer this morning, Prof. Dr. Li-Hsun PENG, Ph.D. from Graduate School and Department of Creative Design, Untek, Taiwan. Thanks, Prof, for joining the State University of Surabaya. Hopefully, it can provide knowledge for graphic design student. Welcome to this guest lecture event. Yang terhormat Wakil Direktur di Selingkung Program Vokasi Unesa, ada Pak Wadin 1, Pak Dr. Warju, Ketua Jurusan Seni Rupa, ada Bu Krisanti. Terima kasih, Ibu, luar biasa bisa bergabung. Kemudian Ibu Kaprodi Desain Grafis, Ibu Asid, kemudian moderator kita, bukannya, kemudian Bapak Ibu, dosen di Selingkung, desain, komunikasi visual, dan desain grafis Unesa. Dan yang saya hormati adik-adik mahasiswa, program studi D4 Grafis dan DKV yang saya banggakan. Pada kesempatan yang pertama ini tentu kita menyampaikan puji syukur kehadirat Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Praise be to God for the health that has been given to us all. Because
Pak Martadi ke mute, Pak.
Ya, sudah kedengaran, Ji?
Sudah, Pak.
Sudah, Pak.
Ya.
Sudah.
Ya, adik-adik mahasiswa, program studi D4 grafis yang saya banggakan, ya, khususnya buat Prof. Li, prize to be good for health that has been given to us all because the might of COVID-19 pandemic Health is very valuable for all of us. Hopefully, we all continue be given health. Ya. Yang kedua, saya menyampaikan apresiasi kepada teman-teman D4 Desain Grafis, kemudian DKV, teman-teman panitia yang sudah luar biasa, sehingga kegiatan kuliah tamu pada pagi hari ini bisa terselenggara dengan baik. Prof. Li, ya, kemudian Bapak Ibu dan mahasiswa yang saya hormati, dalam perspektif kebijakan Merdeka Belajar dan Kampus Merdeka, mahasiswa diberikan ruang pilihan. Ya, kata kuncinya adalah ruang pilihan atau personalized learning. Belajar apa saja dimungkinkan, bisa di mana saja, kapan saja, dengan cara yang bagaimana. Bahkan lintas prodi, lintas kampus, bahkan lintas perguruan tinggi di lintas negara. Itu sangat dimungkinkan. Nah, dosen dan akademisi juga demikian. Ruang itu akan dibangun karena dosen dan akademisi adalah, atau akademik dan profesional adalah ibarat dua mata uang, ya. Jadi uang itu akan bermakna ketika dua sisinya ada gambarnya, berkolaborasi. Sama dengan bidang kita, khususnya diploma 4 ini. Kalau akademisi kemudian praktisi berkolaborasi, maka akan memberikan makna yang lebih kuat, ya, memberikan pengalaman yang lebih complicated bagi mahasiswa, sehingga ketika kelak menghadapi ujian kehidupan bisa berhasil dengan baik. Bapak Ibu yang saya hormati, kami di program vokasi sangat concern untuk meningkatkan kualitas daya saing lulusannya. Sehingga kami mendorong berbagai program untuk membangun link and superman, ya. Eduka, praktisi mulai dari hulu sampai hilir, ya. Kemudian ada magang industri, ada sertifikasi kompetensi, ya. Kemudian ada joint research, ya, kemudian factory research dan sebagainya. Alhamdulillah, ya, tahun ini berbagai program itu sudah kita jalankan, termasuk joint research, international joint research, kita terus dorong dan kita siapkan anggaran untuk itu. Semoga ke depan program ini akan semakin berkembang, semakin kuat, sehingga peningkatan kualitas mutu untuk program D4 semakin membaik. Nah, kuliah tamu saat seperti ini merupakan kesempatan emas bagi adik-adik mahasiswa, bagi teman-teman dosen, untuk bukan saja mendapatkan pengetahuan dan wawasan, tetapi jauh yang lebih penting adalah membangun jejaring. Ya, jejaring ini penting sekali. Untuk itu saya berharap betul, ya, kesempatan ini kita manfaatkan sebaik mungkin, lalu kemudian kita simak betul apa yang beliau sampaikan, lalu kemudian kita aplikasikan untuk mengembangkan dan meningkatkan diri kita. Sayang kesempatan yang sangat berharga ini kalau tidak kita manfaatkan dengan baik. Ingat, ada pepatah mengatakan kesempatan tidak pernah datang 2 kali. Jadi ini betul-betul kesempatan emas untuk kita semua. Untuk itu saya sekali lagi mohon menyampaikan apresiasi dan terima kasih kepada semua jajaran desain grafis, kemudian DKV, teman-teman di seni rupa, sehingga kuliah tamu ini bisa terselenggara dengan baik. Khususnya special thanks for Prof. Li, ya, for this time giving guest lecture for graphic design student. Hopefully in future it can be followed with us with research collaboration, joint student or something else. Thank you very much. Saya kira itu sambutan yang bisa saya sampaikan. Terima kasih. Selamat mengikuti webinar, ya, kuliah tamu pada pagi hari ini, dan dengan atas izin Bapak Ibu, adik-adik sekalian, dan ucapan Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, kuliah tamu pada pagi hari ini saya nyatakan dibuka. Akhir kata, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah, waridho walinayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you.
Okay, that was a beautiful speech, Dr. Martadi. Thank you for your opening speech. Now we have come to the main agenda for today's webinar. Before we get started, let me explain some rules during this webinar. Firstly, please mute your audio while the speaker is presenting. Harap matikan mikrofon kalian di saat pembicara sedang berbicara. If you have any question during the presentation, just write them in the room chat. Apabila ada pertanyaan ketika sedang presentasi, bisa dituliskan langsung di room chat. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Attendees are welcome to ask any relevant questions directly during the Q&A session by using raise hand feature. Untuk sesi tanya jawab akan diadakan di akhir sesi, di akhir kegiatan webinar kita. Partisipan bisa bertanya langsung dengan menggunakan fitur raise hand. We will send you all the relevant links such as attendance link or the material or the presentation through the room chat. Presensi dan segala link yang berhubungan dengan webinar ini akan dibagikan di chat room. Okay, now I would like to introduce our keynote speaker today, Associate Professor Dr. Li-Hsun PENG. Okay, allow me to share. Okay, our keynote speaker today is Associate Professor Dr. Li-Hsun PENG. Dr. Li-Hsun PENG is an Associate Professor in Graduate School and Department of Creative Design, UNTEC. He is hosting the Visual Culture Design Research Unit and researching in the history of design. Professor Lee get his Ph.D. in visual arts, specializing in design history from University of Southern Queensland, Australia in 2008. In 1991, he gets his Master of Arts with distinction from University of Paris 8, France. In 1990, he get his Master of Fine Arts, the NSEP with distinction from École Nationale Supérieure des Arts, Paris-Cergy, France. His line of teaching includes integrated living design, introduction to design history, cultural theories, special topics on Aboriginal community design, and his areas of expertise includes visual culture, fashion design theory, stained glass, post-colonial theory. His teaching experience includes from 2009 until now, he's the Associate Professor in Department of Creative Design in National Yunlin University of Science and Technology. From 2011 to 2014, he is the Chairman in Department of Creative Design in National Yunlin University of Science and Technology. From 2007 and to 2011, he is the acting chair in Department of Creative Design, National Yunlin University of Science and Technology. Professor Li-Hsun is a member of INSI, or the International Society for Education Through Art, and a member of International Design Research Society. He is also acting as editor-in-chief for the Journal of Human-Centric Research in Humanities and Social Science in Australia, and also editorial board for the Asia-Pacific Journal of Educational Management Research, Australia. Professor Lee has received an honors. In 2017, he received Senior Teaching Award of the Ministry of Education, Taiwan. 2005 to 2007, he gets Taiwan scholarships from Ministry of Education, Taiwan. In 2003, he gets third rank of the Service Medal, the Executive Yuan, Taiwan. In 2000, Ministry of Education in Instructional Media Unit Competition, preferred transparent film of art of teaching and practice. In 1997, he gets Steering Committee of Taichung City Student Living Off Campus Instructor Poster Design Competition Award. Professor Li has held some exhibitions, including solo exhibition at Hotel St. Louis, France, and duo exhibition at Taiwan Art Museum in 1991. In 1992, duo exhibition at Taiwan Art Museum. In 1993, trio exhibition Museum of Taipei. In 1995, trio exhibition in the hall of the headquarters of UNESCO, France. In 1996, solo exhibition at Museum Dublin, Austria. That was an amazing experience from Professor Li. Now, without further ado, please welcome Professor Dr. Li-Hsun PENG.
Thank you so much for your presentation and speech. I'm very happy to have the opportunity today. So I'm going to share the screen at the moment. All right, I'm very happy to have you all today. And the topic of my speech today is the shock of the new graphic design starting from the early 20th century. The shock of the new graphic design. I would like to speak starting from 1860 and 1890. So it was in the 19th century, an important movement that changed the whole situation, which is the art and craft movement in England. So this period was the starting of the modernism in the human history, in the civilization as well. And an important person who took part in this action was William Morris. He talked about the past. It's not dead. It is living in us and will be alive in the future, which we are now helping to make, which means he was saying that we are all creators in the human being, in the society, and every one of us contribute our knowledge and effort to change the world. And finally, it will show when the time is come. And William Morris is a socialist and also a designer. He and his good friend Philip Webb, who is an architect, helped to build in 1860 a very beautiful house called Red House. So we can check the first video first.
Hello, welcome to Red House. My name's Nicole. I'm the Collections and House Officer here, and today I'm going to show you around Red House and tell you about it.
So this is the Red House.
This is the Red House Garden Snug project. When William Morris and his friend Philip Webb designed the house, they designed the garden to be an extension of the house and they would work together. The garden was split into enclosures, dubbed garden rooms, that were lined with trellis and filled with sensory flowers as a place for William Morris's family and his friends to sit and play and create together. Our garden snug will be lined with hand-weaved wattle and filled with the roses and the natural British plants that were so important to William Morris and inspired many of his artistic designs and his creations that we'll see later in the house.
It used to be the most beautiful house in England.
We are in the entrance hall to Red House. This painting on the front of the settle is titled The Joyous Guard, and it is a self-portrait of William Morris and his friends. They are seated inside a medieval garden scene, dressed in costume, and it represents those medieval paintings and manuscripts that the Pre-Raphaelite artwork was inspired by. We have William Morris here in green, seated on the left, opposite his wife Jane in pink. On the far end, we have Edward and Georgiana Burne-Jones seated on the ground, and standing above them is Elizabeth Siddall. We also have 3 unfinished characters in the centre. This painting was started by William Morris and then carried on by Gabriele Dante Rossetti, but unfortunately it was never finished. We also believe the painting to be a partial representation of the Red House garden. They're seated beneath apple trees, and Red House was once surrounded by an ancient apple orchard. In the background, you can see trellis wreathed with pink roses, and this painting has served as one of our main inspirations behind the Garden Snug project. Morris's love of design got absolutely everywhere at Red House, even inside the settle itself. Never finished, this little bit is all we have. These stained glass panels reflect the age that William Morris and his friends were when they came here. In their mid-20s, the art and design was all about being playful and fun. William Morris himself designed and painted the flowers on these panels, but he didn't feel confident enough in his artistic skills to do the birds. So he asked his friend and architect, Philip Webb, to do them for him. They emphasize the connection between the house and the garden that they wanted here. You can gaze through the panels in the beautiful sunshine out towards the Well courtyard. We're now standing at the top of the staircase, and this beautiful ceiling was painted as a communal effort between William Morris and his fellow Pre-Raphaelites. Morris would design the repeating pattern and stencil the ceiling with what he wanted, and his friends would come along afterwards and paint the pattern into place. The playful nature of these young artists shines through with a smiley face that replaces part of the repeating pattern in the very corner of the ceiling. The National Trust uncovered it during conservation on this ceiling, and we don't know whether or not anyone else knew about it beforehand. We're now here in the drawing room at Red House. The mural behind me was painted by Edward Burne-Jones as a wedding present to William and Jane Morris, and the faces of the husband and wife in the wedding ceremony are based on William and Jane. Above it, you can see the first repeating pattern of pink flowers by William Morris, and those pink flowers appear again in his first ever wallpaper design named Trellis, which was designed here at Red House. This room was William and Jane Morris's bedroom, and the mural behind me depicts biblical characters from the book of Genesis. This mural was uncovered from beneath a wardrobe by the National Trust in 2013, and it took an amazing conservation effort to bring it to the standards that visitors can now appreciate it. The current theory is that it was painted by Siddall, but we can't know for sure because most of her paintings are very much smaller, and therefore we can't really compare them. We're now in the Red House studio, the brightest of all the rooms in the house, with 8 different windows in 4 different directions. It's always filled with light. William Morris would come here during the early days of his pioneering design company to create the patterns that we all know now. The first 3 of those patterns, trellis, fruit and daisy, were designed here in this room, inspired by nature and the view of the garden and the countryside that William Morris saw outside of these windows. I hope you enjoyed this short tour of Red House, and when time's permit, I hope that you'll come back and visit the house and garden again. It's only with your support that we can look after special places like this, and thank you so much for that.
Okay, that was the film made by the Red House Association. So William Morris, he set up this Red House because he inherited a sum of money from his parents. And so that he and his good friend, Philip Webb, they wanted to build a new house connecting with the socialism so that all the design workers can work after his direction. So this is, we can say, the very first design practice, a design company set up by William Morris in the modernism history. So this is the doorway and its mosaic. Red House used to be said one of the most beautiful house in England. So it's a very countryside style. And also you can see among his work in the end of 19th century, William Morris, he set up more than 10 different practices in his company. For example, textile design, wallpapers, tiles, and also print makings, and also painting, stained glasses as well. So the important thing is in the end of 19th century, it was after the Industrial Revolution, so that machine-made things became popular at that time. However, it's not quite good quality at the meantime, so that he tried to use the handmade technique together with machine fabrications, so that will increase the quality of the production. So this is the main concept of his design practice. And the design pattern he used, everything come from nature. So art and craft movement starting from the 1860s, we can say it is the very beginning of in the design history that modernism come into scene and start acting as a main role to direct all and unify all the designers together work into a theme connecting with the nature. So nature is an important element in this period. So they paint or they create flowers, birds, animals like rabbits, flowers, leaves, to increase the living standard. So they said they wanted to create beautiful design goods with affordable prices for everyone. So this is their main goal, because William Morris and his good friend Philip Webb, they are both socialists at that time. So what they wanted is to help people and create living standard. And also they think that with the help of the designer, they can unify together and make contribution to the society. So that was their goal. And the second person I'm going to talk about is Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec. So he is a tragic person and also very famous designer and painter in the same time. He was painting and starting with the Impressionism as a painter, and later on, because of the living needs, he need to earn his own life. So he start participating with Art Nouveau movement as a poster designer. So we can say that starting from the 1892 to 95, he was a painter, and after 1898, he became a designer. So he has double position in history of design and arts. So we can take a film first, introduction film first.
Lukis.
Okay, that was almost. That was almost. the real life scenario of Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec. He was born in a very wealthy and good family. Because of the two accidents, he broke his legs, both legs, one to another. So he doesn't have a very good life when he was young. And then during the hospitalization period, he learned to do the drawing. And then very soon, everyone finds that he's talented in drawing and in painting. And when he get older, in the age of 20, he went to the Paris and then to the Moulin Rouge, the very famous places. And he inherited a lot of money from his parents, and he spent almost all the money in this area, and he became alcoholic, so which hurt his health. And also, in the meantime, he was painting with the Impressionism style about the life in Moulin Rouge. And afterward, he became poor and poorer, and he spent almost all of his money inherited from his family, and he started have one meal to another. So he decided to work with the Moulin Rouge to draw all kinds of posters. So he became very talented. And we believe that this period in 1891 to 1892 and 1893 is the end of the 19th century. In this period, he started the very beginning and very starting of the poster design, modern poster design. He was one of the very first person who did the poster in history of design. So this is why, even though he is an alcoholic and he is always into a bad place such as Moulin Rouge, however, because he was talented and he still left lots of creation and design works to every one of us. In that time, what he designed for the style, we call it Japanism. Japanism means the influences from the Japan. So the Japanese ukiyo-e, it was transported to Europe at that moment, especially in the end of 19th century. It became very popular because of the vivid colors and styles. So it was full of exoticism, so that all the Europeans loved the ukiyo-e. And under this kind of circumstances, Lautrec, he used the Japanism to draw in his poster. And also he created the font. So the font typography is very important in history of design as well. Lautrec, he was one of the very first person who knew that typography is important and have to connect with the poster. In every poster, the font and the typo is an important element. So he created with his own style. We can say that's the style of Lautrec, of the font. The third person we are going to introduce to everyone is the Scottish designer and architect whose name is Charles Rennie Mackintosh. He did his career from 1899 to 1920s. Wait, so we can take a look for the first introduction film. Who was Charles Rennie Mackintosh?
Charles Rennie Mackintosh was born in Glasgow in 1868. He is considered to be one of the city's greatest, most creative sons. He was an artist, a designer, an architect, considered to be a pioneer of modernism.
He trained and spent all his architectural career in Glasgow. He was quite firmly rooted in tradition. He studied historic buildings, he studied old Scottish architecture, and Mackintosh joined a local practice as an apprentice, and at the same time he attended the Glasgow School of Art.
And in that creative period of the early 1900s, he is absolutely embracing the idea of architecture, of the building, of the interior as a total work of art.
This is a famous high-back chair.
Individualist, he had his own vision of what he wanted to achieve.
So this is an introduction of who was Charles Rennie Mackintosh, and also we are going to look for the making of Mackintosh roses stained glass. Okay, Charles Rennie Mackintosh, he is a designer, architect, and also craftsman. And he did his career mostly in Glasgow School of Art. And he even built this school's building by when he get the commissions. In 1997 to 1909, he built the most famous Glasgow School of Art. He was graduated 20 years before that in this school. And the in Glasgow, we still can find lots of his design work, especially the Willow Tea Room on Satchel Hall Street. It was also in 1902. And the font and typography he created is called Rennie Mackintosh font. And he uses to the Glasgow School of Arts and also for the Willow Tea Rooms. The most famous as an architect and also furniture designer, he created the most famous high-back chair at that time in 1902. And these chairs he was commissioned to build in the Hill House. A friend of him asked him to build a house named as Hill House in 1902. And then after accomplishing the building, he started designing the furniture for his friend. So that was a high-back chair. And in the meantime, he got married with her wife, Margaret McDonald. And Margaret McDonald was his classmate, and they met in the class in Glasgow School of Arts. And then afterwards, they together with his good friend McNair, together, and also McNair's wife, Margaret McDonald's sister, younger sister. 4 of them create the Glasgow 4 as a company, and also they create together as a company and firm. And both McDonald sisters, they create posters, font, and also icons, especially the rose as an icon is important for them because for them, 4 of them, they think that the roses is a representation and also a symbol of love. So they use the roses almost everywhere in their buildings, in the creation they have made. So this is the from 1915 to 1928, rose and teardrop textile design, this one. So it's a textile design. And these are the font of Rennie Mackintosh font. And the important thing is he add extra lines, for example, in the A, in the H, so that it shows it's a cylinder, much more cylinder, just like his high-back chair. So he made connection together with the font he created and connecting with his high-back chair. So he, as an architect, it doesn't mean he can only create the things connecting to architect only. He think a designer must have any kinds of ability if you want. So he create also furniture design, craft design, and also posters, font, stained glass, etc. So we can say that he is a person who really influenced the beginning of the 20th century, one of the most important master in the history of design. So that period of design called the Glasgow School of Arts, or the Glasgow 4. The next person I would like to share with you all is a period of design movement called Secession. Secession is in fact a Nouveau movement. Secession in the word means, the meaning of secession is the separation from the old traditional toward a new period, toward a new era. So that's exactly the same meaning as Art Nouveau, the new arts. So the most important and the most important designer, artist, and leaders in the secession movement is Gustav Klimt. So we can take a look on his film first. Who is Gustav Klimt?
Gustav Klimt was a master of eye-popping pattern and metallic color. Klimt's father was a gold engraver in Vienna, Austria, who taught his son how to work with gold. Klimt won a scholarship to art school. When he finished, he and his brother started a business painting murals on walls and ceilings for mansions, theaters, and universities. Klimt switched from murals to painting on canvases. He was inspired by the Byzantine mosaics from the medieval period, which used many tiny pieces of colored glass, shiny stones, gold, and silver to make images and patterns. Klimt used a lot of gold and metallic paint in his art, and this was called his golden phase. Klimt was part of a group of artists in Vienna who were tired of the realistic art that had been made for hundreds of years. They believed that art was everywhere, and decorative crafts were just as important as fine art. They wanted their art to symbolize something beyond what appeared on the canvas. They wanted to use bright colors. They also wanted to use swirling, flowing lines. They called their style Art Nouveau, or New Art. Klimt loved patterns. He would repeat shapes, lines, or colors in an arrangement. Do you know where you can find decorative patterns around you? Look around. Where can you find decorative patterns? The painting that you see now is entitled A Kiss. It was made in 1907 to 1908 using oil on canvas with gold and silver leaves. This glowing painting of a man and woman is filled with emotion. The man kisses the woman's cheek as if it is their last kiss, or maybe it's their first. The focus is on their heads and faces. Everything else is a swirl of patterns. They appear separate, yet also united in their tight embrace. Throughout his life, Klimt's paintings are largely about some of life's most important questions, such as the love between a man and a woman, the course of life from childhood all the way into old age, and the subject of sickness and death. Klimt's sister died when he was only 12. His father and brother passed away when he was 30, and his mother and other sisters slipped into depression and sadness ever since. His own son died too when he was just a few months old. Perhaps these feelings of life and death are so strong in him that it translates to powerful images as he paints. One of them is the Tree of Life. Let's take a look at Klimt's painting. Do you see the symbols of life and death in this painting? In early mythologies and in many cultures, the Tree of Life signifies the connection between heaven and earth and the underworld. One of the most important qualities of the Tree of Life is that it challenges the viewer to spend more time admiring the rich painting or trying to decipher all of its symbolic meanings. In this painting, Klimt used many rich materials such as gold for paint and other luxurious techniques to illustrate a magical world. The presence of a single blackbird draws the viewer towards the central part of the painting. The blackbird is a reminder that everything that has a beginning also has an end, as blackbirds have been used as a symbol of death by many cultures. The Tree of Life is among the most recognizable images from Gustav Klimt's career. Do you like his painting of the Tree of Life?
Okay, that's the Wendy Chow video. So we can take a look on the second video. It's a short one, very short one. So it's an exhibition. So it's an exhibition right now around the world. So it's promoted by a company by using the 3D special effects to promote this 3D exhibitions. I believe it even came to Taiwan and made exhibition with different titles and subjects. The Life and Death of Gustav Klimt. He used the nature decoration and from the myth, from the Greek mythologies. He, on the left-hand side, Klimt and his lover, Emily Frog, who was a fashion designer, and she uses Klimt's design pattern on her clothes so that they both become a team to create and connecting with fashion design. In 1908 to 1915, Gustav Klimt painted the title of Death and Life. We see on the left-hand side, the death, the god of the death is approaching to a group of people. On the right-hand side, the group of people, they appears sleeping together and they are very calmful and they are not knowing that the death is approaching. Nobody knows when we will die. So this is a metaphor or a symbolic painting to illustrate in between the life and the death. He was using many patterns, black clothes as an icon or symbol to represent for the death, and also a screw as well. On the right-hand side, the people who is resting, sleeping, and they appears happy. And there are many kinds of icons representing happiness, such as flowers, beautiful colors, roses colors, etc. This pattern seems like cells, C-E-L-L-S, is in fact, at that time, Klimt was fascinating in the period when the microscope discovered in the 1901, and his friend introduced Klimt, who is, his friend was a medicine, and who introduced Klimt to know about the world of the microscope. When he looked on the microscope, he discovered that there are cells in the plants actually moving. So he discovered that cells are the component of every creature in the world, so that he used the cells-like pattern in almost every painting of he created. In 1907, Hijaya means health goddess. Health goddess. He painted this pattern or this goddess for University of Vienna, for Vienna's medical school. And in this painting, he used gold. In the previous film, we knew that because his father was a goldsmith, so that in Klimt's painting, he always used gold to decorate his painting. So it became a family tradition for him, and also a symbol. So this is the Tree of Life in 1905. So he thinks that every creature has their own life. So this tree means the starting for the civilization of the world, so that everything is come from the cells. I was talking about, he looked through the microscope, so that he discovered everything is, all the creature is composing with the cells, not the human being, and also the plants, etc. So that he used the cells as a decoration pattern to decorate everywhere in his paintings. He also create the font. We can also call it the Gustav Klimt's font on the right-hand side above. So it's a Gustav Klimt's fonts. And also it can use in the typography. So in the beginning of 20th century, the designers are getting used to create according to their own creations, especially all the designers, no matter he's a visual designer or an architect, they wanted to create their own font at that moment. So this is also important, and also a hint for every one of us today, so that we can create everything according to our own needs. So this in 1906, he painted the portrait of Frisa Raiders, who is a rich person and important influential person at that time in Vienna. And she is beautiful, and also Klimt wanted to create decorative patterns for this lady. So it's part of the painting. The most influential painting for Klimt is the first one is on the left-hand side, created in 1908, The Kiss. We can see the men are holding a woman who he loves, and he kisses on the cheeks of the woman, and we can see the decorative patterns on the costume of the male and on the costume of the female are unique and different, and also contrast to one to each other. On the left-hand side, we can see the square. All the decorative patterns are square-like and also black and white. And on the right-hand side, all the patterns are round, cells-like, and also colorful, representing woman. And on the bottom side, all the flowers appears to be Impressionism. So he had influenced from the Impressionism at that time, because the Impressionism started from 1860 to 1890s, and then it transformed from 1890s to 1900, the post-Impressionism, and from the 1901, starting from as the Neo-Impressionism, or we can say Pointillism. So at that time, all the designer has also influenced by the painting style of Impressionism series. In 1911, after the previous success of the Kiss, he decorated the entitled the Embrace. Embrace means the man holding embrace his love, the woman together. So it was the detail of the decorative painting from the Palais Doclat in Brussels. So that's Brussels royal family commanded him to do this mural painting. And in this mural painting, he painted for more than 2 years. In this decorative painting, we can see tree of lives, spiral pattern, and also cat eyes like or cells like patterns in representing women's and men. So these areas are representing the man. And in this tiny area, even on the borderline of the male's domination, under the male's domination, we can see the decorative patterns of the female. So it's more soft, more colorful comparing to the male decoration patterns. Gustav Klimt, he is also a leader in the group of secession. He used his own create form as a typography in this poster, and it was in 1903. He started a group, also a socialist group, and also a creation group. He unified friends from all kinds of areas, furniture designers. This is Gustav Klimt. All the friends are his good friends. They together work together to create the secession group. As I told you before, secession means separation from the old tradition, means secession, separated from the old traditions. The following person is a person who created starting from his career at 1898 in the end of 19th century and the starting of the 20th century, who is also important in Vienna in the secession. His name is Otto Wagner, an architect who loves patterns and decors. So he is an architect, a very famous one, but who also loves design patterns, decorative icons. We can take a look on the film first. Who is Otto Wagner? The fifth person.
Call someone a visionary is a strong statement, but with Otto Wagner, it truly fits. Not only did he shape the appearance of his hometown Vienna, but with his buildings, he did nothing less than revolutionize
So this is
architecture.
the post office. This is the post office in Vienna, the headquarters of the post office. So this is the station he built.
Later, he immersed himself into the upcoming Art Nouveau. He joined the Vienna Secession and even coined the term modern architecture. And Wagner didn't stop there. In 1890, he designed a whole new city plan for Vienna, but only his urban rail network, the Stadtbahn, was built. Its stations are still in use today.
So this is Karlsbad's metro station built by Otto Wagner. Decorative motifs.
Right across from Vienna's busy Naschmarkt, you have the opportunity to see stunning examples of Otto Wagner's architectural work. Two beautiful apartment buildings that he designed and which are still in use
House.
today. Not everybody was always happy with Otto Wagner's visionary work. Archduke Franz Ferdinand hated the highly modern architecture of the Imperial Royal Post Savings Bank. Nonetheless, Wagner's iconic building remains one of the most eminent architectural works of the beginning of the 20th century. He even designed the interior architecture and furniture for it. New human tasks and views called for a change or reconstitution of existing forms, Otto Wagner once stated in his textbook. He incorporated the use of new materials and new designs and built structures that reflected their intended function. Otto Wagner was a leader of modern architecture. When he died in 1918 at the age of 76, he left indelible marks in the city of Vienna.
So that's the Vienna Museum's presentational film for Otto Wagner. And also, we're going to see the most beautiful pattern called
Willkommen in Majorca House.
Majorca House.
I'm Hunter Faddis. I'm Abby Hudson. I'm Samantha Russo. And I'm Sadie Thompson.
Located in Vienna, Austria, the Magellan House began construction in 1898 and
So
was completed in 1899. It was constructed.
This film were made by a group of students in Vienna.
Otto Wagner. His reputation was firmly established in Vienna based on his work in Stadtbahn and the bridges and the locks along the Danube River. The main values that the site promotes is secessionism, to make a political stance against the old ways. Wagner shocked the Vienna community when in 1899 he left the Kunsthaus, which had recommended him for these commissions, and joined secessionists.
The two apartment houses on Link Wine Cell, number 30 and 40, built near the center of Vienna, date from this period. At the time, they were felt to be hideous beyond measure. These two buildings, side by side in a constant heightened modulation, together form an unparalleled decorated secessionalist wall of dwellings and shops. Number 40 on the left, the so-called Majolka, was named after the flowered tile which covered the magnificent facade.
They wanted to be progressive and view the total work of art as more than just an object/site. Zenmantek translated as a total artwork, an artistic creation that synthesizes the elements of music, drama, dance, etc. It began under similar circumstances wherein contemporary artists in the city became increasingly frustrated with the policies of the Kunsthaus, the only venue in the city for displays of contemporary art to favor more conservative-minded artists, in part because their work sold better and the Kunsthaus took 10% commission on all sales.
According to Arts Daily, despite its flat rectangular shape, Williams considered Art Nouveau. Art Nouveau drew inspiration from organic and geometric forms to create elegant and modern designs. Additionally, Art Daily states Wagner uses new modern materials and rich colors, yet retains traditional use and ornamentation.
The Secessionists commissioned the building. Secessionism is an art movement formed in 1897 by a group of Austrian artists who have resigned from the Association of Austrian Artists, housed in the Vienna Künstlerhaus. They wanted Wagner to achieve the look of contemporary art through functionalism and portray socialism.
In 1894, when Otto Wagner became professor of architecture at the Academy of Fine Arts Vienna, he was well advanced on his path toward a more radical opposition to the prevailing currents of the scholastic architecture. A style incorporated these new materials and new forms to reflect the fact that society itself was changing. Overall, I think that the Majolica House had some interesting tile work, but the shape of the building was a little boring to me. I wish that the shops underneath the apartment rooms were more visually appealing to go along with the delicate flowers.
All in all, I enjoyed this building. As a health science major, I do not know much about art history and architecture. However, this was a great example of Art Nouveau to see in person. This building was and is a total artwork that serves multiple purposes such as housing, commercial use, and a piece of art. Initially, I really liked the floral pattern on the facade. I've never seen anything like it. It taught me more about Art Nouveau, in particular Art Nouveau and architecture. The Secessionists wanted to try something different. They wanted to break away from the norm, and I think that idea is always occurring into new styles constantly.
I thought that the house shows the Art Nouveau style in a way of simplicity and hierarchy by focusing your eye towards the center of the structure, out towards each corner, dragging your eye up. Besides the bright colors and geometric flowers, the house shows its need with paint chipping, and fallen tiles and faded colors. In addition, the retail space below detracts from the beauty above by having ghetto signage and overgrown plants. Overall, this site shows a political statement Otto Wagner wanted to portray.
Okay, that's the Otto Wagner's project. As an architect of that time who wanted to be more than an architect, who also take care of the nature decoration patterns, he is in love with all the natural flowers, such as sunflowers in the Cosbras buildings and Metro buildings, and also Majolica House. These are the facade of the Majolica House in front of a market, open market. So this is the residential buildings that people who actually living inside. So it's an important and also a monumental buildings of city of Vienna. And also most of the tourists, when they went to visit in Vienna, it's a must-see building, but basically nobody can enter to that building unless the people who live inside, they invite you to do so. So I was lucky as well. We're been asking a person who is going back to his home, and I asked him that whether I can enter and take some pictures, and he asked me whether I was a designer or what, and I told him that I'm a teacher in design school, so that he was really happy to let me in and take some picture. So that was a very good memory for me as well. So I think Otto Wagner, he is fascinating with nature elements. So he did works more than an architect have to do. He also designed for the surface. So just like a graphist designer, I think he's crossing borders, especially starting from 1900. And at that time, starting from the 20th century, there was no limit at that time for the creators, no matter you are in which field, no matter you are in as an architect or a furniture designer or even a graphic designer, there was no such borderline at that moment. So it's very easy to cross over and learn from each other's. But nowadays, this kind of borderline become more and more element. So people have to try to cross in the borders sometimes so that we will not stay in our own position all the time. On the left-hand side is the most famous extravagant buildings, which located the Vienna's post office quarters. So the decoration he used is the goddess who was holding L'Oreal as an element, austerity post Picasso. So this is a very important building starting from the functionalism, which means the function is most important. Not only the decoration on the surface, but inside in each office, in each furniture, he used the functionalism concept to do everything. On the right-hand side is 1914, he started building his second home. So that's a Villa Wagner 2. Previously, he did the Villa Wagner 1. So this is a Villa Wagner 2. He also used the mosaic and stained glass to decorate his building, Villa Wagner. So for him, decoration is life. It's totally different from other people or other designers' idea. He, in previous time in 1905, Otto Wagner built his first villa for himself and for his family. The building called Villa Wagner. He used the stained glass as a decoration patterns for the living room, especially in the living room. And he said, what is impractical can never be beautiful. Means decoration is also important, it's not impractical. Because at that time, many people think that decoration pattern is impractical. However, he thinks that decoration motif is important and can be beautiful as well. So that's his own mindset, totally different from the people in his time. What is impractical can never be beautiful. So he means what the practical thing can be beautiful. So that's a true meaning. This is also his font. He designed for his font. Everyone has their own font and also their own typography in the beginning of the 20th century. So we are going to talk about the total influences in Vienna in the secession movement. It was starting from 1897 to 1918, the Vienna Werkstatt, the Vienna workshop, the starting of the cooperative craft and design workshop. So there are also video. The logo. The logo of the Vienna workshop, 2W, so it became a logo. So this is a student who create a folding catalog, a folding catalog.
The Wiener Werkstatt started in 1903. It was started by Joseph. The Wiener Werkstatt started in 1903. It was started by Joseph.
I'm sorry.
And the interest is through Charles Rennie Mackintosh and, of all things, a banker by the name of Barnsdorfer, who was quite taken with Mackintosh's work, had been to Glasgow, had seen his work, had acquired a couple of pieces, and introduced Mackintosh to Joseph Hoffman. In fact, Mackintosh was represented in the third Vienna Secessionist exhibition that was in Vienna, and the Wiener Werkstatt was a direct offshoot of the Vienna Secession, and there were many elements that were incorporated from Mackintosh's work into Joseph Hoffman's early, very austere sort of designs. The Wiener Werkstatt consisted of workshops that worked in various media, glass, metalwork, and ceramics. At one time, I think they had about 100 different artisans, and in some areas, some of the jobs were farmed out to those manufacturers that were better qualified to execute some of the designs. The whole effort was to imitate the British guilds, especially Ashby's Guild of Handicraft, in being able to produce works that were beautifully crafted, but to try to wrestle with the effort of making them available to a larger public, to try to get into larger productions and not mass production, but at least more widely distributed and a greater number of pieces that were made. The Wiener Werkstatt was open until 1933. In fact, there was even an American shop. It was open for, I believe, about 2 or 3 years in New York City. But unfortunately, as much as they tried to wrestle with the issue of producing quality works for a larger audience, in a way, they were so critical of the work they were producing, they really never got around to being able to produce a large enough number of works to sustain themselves. When the Wiener Werkstatt opened, their designs were quite austere, had very little, if any, ornamentation to them. But in order to address a larger audience, they began to add more elements of decoration. And Joseph Hoffman and Koloman Moser did designs that were quite similar in many respects. In some cases, it's even difficult to decide which one was designed by Hoffman and which one was designed by Moser. But each of them fed off of the influence of the other, and their designs today are now greatly appreciated and much coveted by museums in both the United States and Europe.
Okay. So Vienna Werkstatt is an association and also the starting of cooperative craft and design workshop. There were a dozen of people, designers, working together. Yeah, there were a dozen of designers working together as to help the association and start all kinds of workshops. People can unify under this Vienna Werkstatt and to get profit for the basic living standards. these are the starting of the cooperation for the designer starting from 1897 to 1918. The Wiener Werkstatt, Vienna Workshops logo design. So they use the double W as the basic element for the design. And I'm introducing every one of you the patterns, the poster designs, and textile patterns in this page. So this was the 1908 an exhibition for the Vienna Werkstatt. So the past poster for that time. And also, this was another poster design for a theater. So it was commissioned to the Vienna Werkstatt to do this poster. And also on the left donor side of the left-hand side, that's the textile pattern design. They use the natural decorative ornaments. The ornaments are geometric and also very colorful. So these are the very basic designs patterns from the Vienna Werkstatt. So the Vienna Werkstatt, basically, they have their own workshop, and also they have a chain stores in different cities in Austria and even in Germany. And also it used to have a shops in New York for 3 years, but it was not working and then shut down later on. So on the right-hand side are still the poster design. So on this side, the textile of the Vienna Werkstatt is basically is an exhibition poster showing from the 1910 to 1932. At that moment, the visual graphic designer who did all kinds of pattern design with different colors on textile, on producing the textile. On the right-hand side is also the textile design works. So it's a jungle with monkeys as a decorative motif and patterns. So this kind of textile design were very popular at that time, in the beginning of the 20th century. On the upper side of the right-hand side, the Wiener Werkstatt. So it's a woodcraft works. So they were showing how the woodcraft printing can be useful for their workshop. Last subject, but not the least, I'm going to talk about starting from the 1900 to 1915, the most famous Art Nouveau designers, Antonio Gaudi's work. So the mosaic with, I'm talking about the mosaic with exotic color and imagination he did. Antonio Gaudi built the most magnificent building is not achieving yet. It was starting from 1915. It will be achieved probably 5 years later in 2026. The Sagrada Familia, the central tower in honor of Jesus. This will be the central tower, which will reach 172.5 meters high altitude. Okay, we will take a look on the video first. We have 3 videos.
Hey guys, I'm Simon from Alva Study Abroad, and today we're here in Barguel because I'm going to teach you something pretty cool about Barcelona. This is what I wanted to show you. These are Gaudi's ceramic mosaics, Barcelona's most characteristic sign. So around here, we have one of the most emblematic pieces of Gaudí, the lizard. So you're probably wondering, why did Gaudí invent ceramic mosaics? Legend has it that one day at his workshop, he was trying to make these ceramic fit, but the ceramics were too big. He just couldn't make them fit into the curves that he wanted. So what he did, he grabbed them and threw them to the floor, and out came smaller pieces, pieces that could fit into the right shapes for Gaudí's design. This simple idea allowed Gaudí to make all the shapes that he wanted. Take a look. Notice all the different colors and shapes. The smaller pieces, the bigger pieces, the ones with texture in them. Some even have pre-designs. This one, for example, was destined to be in a bathroom. Or these, maybe in a kitchen. One awesome thing that you can see here too are teacups and plates. Everything was reused to fit in Gaudí's design. So if you've had a good time seeing this in video, imagine seeing it in person. I would like to invite all of you to come here to Barcelona and enjoy Barguel and the Gaudí mosaics. See you here.
The Grand Hotel, designed by Antonio Gaudí, built in 1908.
So the part where the third one would probably will take a look later. So Gaudi is also an architect who is more than an architect, who is also searching on different fields in design, such as furnitures and visual design as well. He did the sketches, for example, for this one, the sketches of the Sagrada Familia. So he did the sketches first and then change a little bit here and there, and then there finally become his real projects. So these are Gaudi's sketches for the columns and for the Sagrada Familia. So this is the accomplished sketch. On the second film we were showing before 1 minute ago, it was in 1908. Gaudi was commissioned to design a grand hotel for New York City, although it never progressed beyond initial concept drawing. Remarkably, the planned location was a parcel owned by the American businessman patron as a site upon which the World Trade Center would be built years later. So after the destroy of the World Trade Center, there are a group of people who initiate to promote the possibility to build, rebuild, to realize the Antonio Gaudi's spaceship-like New York Grand Hotel for New York. So it was a Grand American Hotel. So the shape is just like the spaceship. And inside the dining hall is a very high, the altitude is very high. And comparing to the tables people are dining, so it creates a theoretical atmosphere, and it's very amazing. So we were seeing the mosaic designed by the Antonio Gaudi in Park Güell. Park Güell is donated by a very rich, successful businessman, Güell, to Barcelona city and also to the people in Barcelona. So Güell is a very successful entrepreneur who is a very good friend of Gaudi, and he commissioned Gaudi to design this park, coined the name as Park Güell to give a prize for the local people, especially for the Barcelona people, to have a prize to pass with the family. And the Gaudi used mostly the reuse tiles to do the mosaic. So we can say this action is actually a sustainable design in viewing in the 21st century's view site. Thank you so much for the attention. And I would also like to add one more probably
Bukannya Profesor Lee ke mute sepertinya.
Excuse me, Professor Lee. Sorry, I think your mic is on mute.
Sepertinya Prof. Lee sudah selesai, bukannya?
Masih ini Pak, masih menjelaskan.
Oh,
Ke-mute.
iya.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes, I
Okay,
can hear
thank
you.
you.
Sorry.
So Adolf Rose, he published a book saying that among the decoration is a crime. So which has a very big influences in the beginning of 20th century, so that many designers or architects, they don't dare to use the decoration pattern. However, I would like to stress that Adolf Rose himself did a lot of decorative motif by himself. This is Adolf Rose, and the most famous one is the American bar in Vienna by Adolf Rose. He used all kinds of material, and I consider it also as a decorative pattern as well. American bar. American bar. We can see on the entrance the American bar. On the entrance is a decorative motif with American flags, and also the font with American bar is a mosaic pattern, and also stained glass pattern. So I consider it as decorative motif as well. So it's totally against his own belief. So every one of you try wrong, so never trust it. And in the end, Okay, I would like to make the ending for today's speech. Graphic design is in our life, incorporated with our creative abilities. So today's topic is a proof and also to show every one of us that graphic design can be without borders. We can not limit ourselves imagination. Graphic designer can cooperate it with any kinds of creators. And even though graphic designer can also enlarge our own skill and scopes toward the 21st century. Thank you so much for today's speech. And I also like to thank for the Universitas Negeri, Surabaya, to give me the opportunity and chance to share my idea with every one of you. Thank you, and wish you have a very nice day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Lee, for your amazing presentation, and also your interesting video. Now it's the time for the Q&A session. We already have a few questions in the chat room.
Okay, I will take a look.
Okay.
That's great.
Okay, so the first question is from Savir Ahak. First of all, thank you for a great educative presentation, Professor Lee. Many of newer generation artists and designers nowadays represent their works as a tragedy, revolution, woke society, and anti-mainstream platform to show the society that they are different and exclusive. They broke an essential rules as an artist or designer to be different. They don't want to learn a fundamental like studying anatomy, color, shapes, compositions, etc. There is many artists and designers that I know nowadays doesn't usually pay much attention to how well their works is done. It's like aesthetics and functionality are no longer important to them. My question is, what qualification that is make the artist or designer great and successful, and what qualification that make them fail and fall into the loop of delusion of being an exclusive artist or designer?
Okay, thank you. I think every one of us as a designer, even in the graphic design field, we cannot limit ourselves. And in this 21st century of time, people are communicating to each others. So the importance is we have to enlarge our scope and try not to limit ourselves. Integrated design is a future tendency and future trend, so that everyone have to prepare ourselves, especially when we are students or teachers in an academy. We have pay a lot of attention to the trend, to the social needs, so that we can really design a useful works for the society. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Lee. There is another question coming up from Arya Respati. Silahkan Arya Respati, bisa ditanyakan langsung.
All right. First of all, thank you to Professor Lee. That was a very insightful materials that I really appreciate. And I also learned a lot of new things, including the fact that William Morris is in fact a socialist, which is news to me. As a person who's also had a deep interest in design history, yes. I also learned and observed that many leftist and socialist ideas has influenced design in a very significant way, especially in the times in the era of Bauhaus or the international style. So my question is that, do you think that socialism or other forms of leftist ideology could came back to lead the design trends, just like, you know, in the Bauhaus era of the past? And what I'm saying is that maybe the idea of affordability could become the leading principle of design instead of just something that incentivizes consumption as what we experience right now under global capitalism. And if they do go back, would they return only to be appropriated like the greenwashing campaign that we've seen regarding environmental issues, or would these thoughts return to become a leading ideology in future design, considering that currently in our political climate, we are increasingly more skeptical towards global capitalism and its practices? So, maybe I'm reiterating myself again, but maybe it's not just
I
leftist
totally
or socialist
understand what
thoughts.
you are. Yeah, I totally agree and understand what you are saying. So
maybe it is not just.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
continue,
Can
please.
I maybe finish?
Continue, please.
So it's not just leftist or socialist thought, but also this. I'm talking about this post-colonial attitude of wanting to present local cultures and so on, because in many countries in Asia and Africa, there's also these movements of wanting to incorporate local visual cultures in design. In Indonesia, for example, we have the leading studios such as Project Agni or Macan Unggulan, for example. So if this movement truly gain international attention, would they only be appropriated like, you know, African or Indian culture during the 70s in this quote unquote international or global music style, or would they stand out as something that remain as a strong local identity that would not be appropriate as, you know, the way that Japanism was presented in early modern design history? Thank you for the opportunity to ask questions. And once again, a very great lectures, which I learned many great things from. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aya. You have a very good question, and you arouse people's attention with the topic about the socialism. Will it come back to the scene, or what happened? What will it happen? What will it happen after the post-pandemic era in our world? I think the coexistence is a must, and also an important steps for every one of us to follow, because we are in a democracy society that everyone can speak for ourselves, and there are all kinds of communities, society in the whole world. I believe in a freedom society, all the species can be coexist, even in the design field as well. The design pattern, design style, design thought, design thinking can be coexist. This is a reality, and it should be maintained so that everyone can contribute our own knowledge to the society and to make the world getting better. Thank you. That's my feedback. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you, Arya Respati, for the great question. Yeah, also Professor Lee to answer the question. We still have another question. It's coming from our lecturer, Mr. Tri.
Hello.
Hello. I'm not going to asking to Professor Peng. I just want to say hello to Professor Peng.
Hello.
Hello, Professor Peng. Nice to know you are here today. Welcome to Surabaya City.
Yeah,
To be
thank you.
precise,
I'm very happy to have you today as well.
okay. To be precise, virtually Surabaya, I guess. I'm sorry, Professor, I cannot turn on the camera because I just
It's
had
okay.
I
It's
just had
okay.
surgery yesterday, and
Oh, I wish
currently,
you're getting well.
okay, thank you. And currently, I'm lying on the bed right now. It is hard
Okay.
for me to sit properly. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Professor, my
Anyway,
name
I think
is.
we are in the society in the world without borders, so we can have direct communication through modern technology. I'm very happy to meet every one of you today, but through this occasion. Thank you so much.
Okay, Professor Peng, my name is Tri Cahyo.
Yeah,
I attended your lecture in 2018 at during the CCID event at UNTEC.
I see. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I can recall right now.
Okay.
But it was many of you, probably more than 10 people in the
Yes.
section.
At the time, actually, there were 5 participants from Indonesia. 3 of them were from Unesa.
Okay.
The
Yes,
first
yes.
is
Yeah,
yes.
for the workshops. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Textile workshops.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
The first
organized
is
by
the first is Mrs. Indarti.
Yeah, Indarti.
From the education
organized by
department.
Indarti. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And the rest is me and Mrs. Nanda, a junior lecturer from the design department.
Okay.
I'm sure you forgot me, but my
No.
my photo background definitely reminds you.
Yeah. Thank you so much of
Okay.
reminding me about the past cooperative movement between 2 universities. Thank you so much.
Okay. What I want to say is the lecture is very interesting about the beginning of
the 20th centuries.
Yeah, modernism at 20th century, and how the influences starting from William Morris to Adolf Loos' famous quote, which is "ornament is crime."
Yeah, I would like to remind every one of you that it was really the very beginning of the modernism. So it's more advanced and ahead before Bauhaus. So because Bauhaus was starting until the end of First World War. However, today's topic is really between the end of 19th century and the very beginning of the 20th century. Thank you so much.
Okay. Actually, we also studied this topic, but today we got a lot of insight from you.
Thank you. It was just the try. I'm not speaking too well today because I was not sleeping too well last night. So I'm not performing very well. Okay. I'm sorry about that.
Okay. I think during the pandemic, the positive effect of the pandemic is that distance is no longer a big issue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks to
it's still going on. I think everyone is concerned and infected by the pandemic spread. Even though right now, at this moment in Taiwan, we have outbreaks everywhere in the major capital cities in Taipei and New Taipei cities. And in Taichung City, we have just a little bit, probably 15% get infected. So we have automatic lockdown by ourselves, not by the government, but by our people ourselves. So we try not to go out to the outside unless we want to buy something. And all the courses are right now online. So the teachers are trying very hard to get attention to the students. So I'm trying to use the YouTube video in presenting and spreading my ideas and communicating with students. So I believe the technology is a very good tool for every one of us in when we are teaching. So I believe that students will learn from it as well. Thank you.
Yes, we also have a same condition in Indonesia, Prof. Peng.
Yes.
Okay, thank you
Likewise.
for Prof. Peng today's lecture. Success for you, Prof. Peng.
Yeah, thank you. I truly wish every one of you have a very good health and the pandemic will go away very soon.
Thank you.
Best wishes. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you next time if we have chance. Yeah.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tri. Do we have any more questions? I've heard that there will be prizes for people who ask questions. Okay.
Really? Wow, that's great.
Okay, Putih Saruni has raised her hands.
Budi? Is it Budi from Yuntech? We have a Mr. Budi in Yuntech as well, who is also a lecturer from Indonesia. Hi, Budi, where are you?
Hi.
You can
nice
ask
to
your
meet
question.
you. Yes.
So I actually has been put my questions in the chat room, but first of all, thank you for the great education presentation. Prof. Li-Hsun from PENG. I'm sorry. Decoration and patterns are obviously beautiful. Iconology is also something that are important in design, but in 1908, Alfred Loss declared something like ornament, pattern, and decorations are something that are backwards, degenerate, and the rationalist moderates aims that patterns, decoration, and patterns needs to be criminalized. And I'm really curious about your personal opinion regarding to this statement, remembering the fact in Asia and many ethnic, patterns and decoration are such important part in their traditional centric design.
Yes. Yeah, I can answer this question as I can.
Yeah.
Ornament is a crime the book made by Adolf Rose has a very great impact, very serious impact on Bauhaus. Most of the Bauhaus teachers believed it. So I think it's a kind of movement that when people doing too much decoration, and then there are going to have another movement against the decoration patterns. So in the history of design in Western society, it's also always kinds of revolution against each others. Through this kind of competition, people will evaluate themselves and the movement and the design styles will going on and continues. So afterward, after 100 years later, we are talking about this topic that we truly know that design or ornament decoration patterns is definitely not a crime. It's existed in everyday life among us, and it has a huge impact for the human civilization. For example, I know that Gaudi and also Barcelona in the whole span were occupied, colonized by the Arab people during the Middle Age century. So for more than 700 years or 800 years. So the decorative pattern from the Arab style coexist with the Spanish culture and now has flourished into a new kind of cultural elements. So I really and truly believe that decoration is not a crime, and decoration patterns will be coexisting in this world and also in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the answer, Prof.
Okay, thank you, Putih, for the question. Is there any more question? Anyone wants to ask something? Pertanyaan bisa disampaikan dalam bahasa Indonesia, nanti akan saya bantu translate-kan untuk Profesor Li. Tidak ada pertanyaan lagi? Okay, there is a question from Ovi Kamilata. What should be a designer's priority while creating a design?
What should be a designer's priority while creating a design? Thank you. So I believe everyone have to train ourselves, prepare ourselves well first. So that's the very first step we can do. Prepare our own knowledge, our own skill. I believe knowledge and thinking is much more important than the skill. The skill can be learned. If we need some kind of skill, we can try very hard to learn. But the thinking is much more important. It's beyond everything. If you want to be a good designer, we must have a good design thinking. So we have to learn many things first through the design trend. As an example, take an example as today's speech, we can learn from 100 years ago or more than 100 years ago when the people start creating the modernism that add every day different kind of concept. Many designers, architects, graphic designers, furniture designers, they co-create in the society to enlarge the design thinking and enlarge the possibility. So as a person or as a teacher, as a student, nowadays people, we can start preparing ourselves. And every time when you create a design, you have to ask yourself, is this really what you want? Is this really what the society expects, or the society expects from us? Or you can raise the same question with your friend, with your teachers, with your families, and every time we have to question ourselves. Every time we have to raise new question or to raise new ideas from the previous design we have made. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Lee, for your answer. I think I missed a question before from Mr. Nur Wahid.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Nur Wahid. Okay, there's a question about scientific journal for arts and design, especially. Is there any specific source for art and design journal, or is it count as irrelevant scientifically? So the question is, what about the scientific source for art and design?
Okay, I will take a look on the link I probably have. I will show you this link. For example, here, this is a basic link we use very often. And also there is another link, I suppose, is you can check. You can check SSCI journal, and there is coming the Vienna University's link as well. So this is also a good link.
Okay. Okay.
So I will copy and paste this link as well. So through these two links, for example, we can search SSCI or SCI, all citation index. We can search SCI, SSCI, and HCI. For example, we can check design or art and design. For example, there are a lot of, there are three. For example, SCI, SSCI, AHCI, HCI. Journal of Art and Design Education, for example. Or we can simply make design, for example.
Sorry, Professor Lee, do you mind if you share your screen?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't share the screen. So, for example, okay. For example, in the Vienna's University, Technical University site, I already shared the link with you. So for example, if I put design and search in SCI, SSCI, and then you can see many lists. Probably it's in biology, so this is not in our field. Architecture design, this is in our field. So computer aided design is SCI. Also, is a lot of design issue. For example, is ANHCI, design journal, design studies. There are a lot of design. So you can search. I think TU Vienna is a very good site because it helps to search either SCI or SSCI or ANHCI. The three lists are searching result will be appeared together in this website. So I believe this is the best website I'm going to share with you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Lee. That was very useful, I believe. Jadi untuk teman-teman yang membutuhkan source atau sumber untuk karya-karya jurnal-jurnal ilmiah dari bidang desain bisa menggunakan link yang sudah di-share oleh Profesor Lee di chat room.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Lee. Is there any more question?
Yeah, I would like to add about the journal. There is a journal called Sustainability. So it's included in SCI and SSCI. So it's MDPI company who raise a series of design or all kinds of discipline together, as long as its sustainability is incorporated in SCI and SSCI list. So I also encourage everyone try to submit your works to this journal as well. and it's still valid and still officially valid journal. No problem at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Lee, for the information. To all participants, is there any more question? Okay, I think we have answered all of the question, Professor Lee. It was actually very interesting lecture you give today.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to share the knowledge through the internet. So thanks to the advanced technology, we can see each other without borders and without time delay. I think that's really wonderful. And I would like to thank you everyone to pay attention to my speech today. And I wish every one of you have a very good health and keep good condition until the pandemic is gone. Best wishes. Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you, Professor Lee. Okay, I would like to briefly summarize today's.
Sebentar bukannya apa bisa foto dulu? Can we take a picture for you all?
Okay.
Turn the camera on, please.
That's great.
Camera on, please. Yes.
Yes.
Camera.
Yeah,
Okay, everyone, please put your camera on.
Okay.
Semuanya tolong nyalakan kameranya.
Fotoin ya, Mas Widian.
That's
Bu, oke
great.
Bu, siap. Sebentar Bu, sebentar. Ini saya dulu, bentar. Oke, ready?
Ya, halo. Ready.
Oke, teman-teman yang lain mungkin masih belum menyalakan kamera, monggo. Oke, saya ambil. 1, 2, 3. Oke, sekali lagi. 1, 2, 3. Oke.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Professor Lee.
You're welcome.
Untuk partisipan, ini link untuk absensi. Akan saya share di chat.
Okay, before we get to the final end of this webinar, I would like to this presentation today for the participant. Oke, jadi Profesor Lee membagi era desain pada abad ke-20 menjadi 7 bagian. Yang pertama di tahun 1860 sampai dengan 1890 merupakan awal dari era modernisme. Era ini merupakan awal dari pergerakan arts and craft. Salah satu desainer yang paling memiliki influence adalah William Morris, berasal dari Inggris. Salah satu karyanya yang paling terkenal adalah Red House yang dibangun pada tahun 1860. Red House merupakan awal dari kolaborasi antar desainer. Pada era ini, desain banyak terinfluence dari alam. Ornamen-ornamen yang digunakan didominasi oleh daun, hewan, bunga, atau sulur. Pada era ini juga dimulainya era revolusi industri dan mulai banyak digunakan mesin sebagai alat bantu dalam desain. Kemudian yang kedua, tahun 1864 sampai dengan 1901 merupakan awal dari modern poster. Salah satu desainer yang berpengaruh adalah Henri de Toulouse dari Prancis. Toulouse merupakan pelukis impresionis dan desainer poster Art Nouveau. Karya-karyanya banyak terinspirasi dari kehidupan malam di salah satu tempat yang paling populer pada masa itu, Moulin Rouge. Karyanya juga dipengaruhi oleh influence dari Jepang. Toulouse juga mulai mempopulerkan tipografi pada masa ini. Yang ketiga, pada tahun 1899 sampai dengan 1920, Charles Rennie Mackintosh merupakan seorang desainer yang berpengaruh. Charles Rennie Mackintosh merupakan seorang seniman, desainer, sekaligus arsitek yang berasal dari Scotland. Rennie mendirikan Glasgow School of Art dan The Willow Tea Room. Karya lain yang terkenal antara lain The High Back Chair, merupakan salah satu karya furnitur yang terkenal dari Glasgow. Rennie McIntosh banyak menggunakan ornamen mawar sebagai perlambangan cinta dalam karyanya, dan sama dengan desainer sebelumnya, Rennie McIntosh juga memiliki font sendiri. Memasuki yang keempat, pada tahun 1890 sampai dengan 1910, merupakan era secession atau perpisahan dari tradisional, atau juga dikenal sebagai era Art Nouveau. Salah satu desainer yang terkenal adalah Gustav Klimt dari Vienna. Gustav banyak menggunakan warna cerah, garis spiral, warna emas yang melambangkan magical world. Salah satu karyanya yang paling terkenal adalah Tree of Life, The Kiss, dan The Embrace. Karya-karyanya banyak memberikan influence untuk desainer pada masa itu. Gustav Klimt memiliki opini bahwa font atau tipografi dapat memberikan ciri identitas untuk desain kita, dan kita bisa membuat font atau tipografi yang sesuai dengan kebutuhan kita. Yang kelima, pada tahun 1898 sampai dengan 1912, Otto Wagner merupakan salah satu desainer yang paling berpengaruh. Otto Wagner merupakan pelopor modern arsitektur. Otto Wagner banyak menggunakan elemen dekoratif pada bangunannya. Salah satu karyanya yang paling terkenal adalah kantor pos Vienna, stasiun kereta Vienna, Majolika House, dan juga Villa Wagner. Walaupun karyanya banyak menggunakan unsur dekoratif, Otto Wagner berpendapat bahwa fungsi adalah hal yang paling penting dalam desain. Mengutip dari ucapan Otto, "What is impractical will never be beautiful." Sama dengan sebelumnya, Otto Wagner juga memiliki font sendiri. Yang keenam, pada tahun 1897 sampai dengan 1918, didirikan Wiener's Werkstatt atau Vienna Workshop. Ini merupakan awal dari kooperatif craft and design workshop. Salah satu karyanya adalah Vienna Workshop poster dan desain tekstil. Mereka memiliki 10 cabang di 10 kota yang berbeda di Austria, Jerman, dan bahkan New York. Desain mereka termasuk sangat populer pada awal abad ke-20. Yang terakhir, pada tahun 1900 sampai dengan 1915, desainer Art Nouveau paling terkenal Antonio Gaudí. Antonio Gaudí terkenal akan mosaik dengan warna eksotis yang imajinatif. Karyanya yang paling terkenal adalah Sagrada Familia di Barcelona. Gaudí merupakan seorang arsitek yang juga mengeksplor dunia furnitur dan visual design. Karya lainnya adalah Grand American Hotel di New York, dan juga Park Güell, salah satu ikon mosaik yang terkenal di Barcelona. Sebagai penutup, Profesor Li mengatakan, graphic design is in our life. Today's presentation is a proof that graphic design is borderless and unlimited collaboration. Graphic design itu ada di dalam kehidupan kita sehari-hari. Dan juga materi perkuliahan hari ini merupakan bukti bahwa desain atau graphic design tidak hanya terbatas pada graphic design itu sendiri, melainkan tidak memiliki batas dan dapat menjadi sebuah kolaborasi yang luar biasa dengan part desain yang lainnya seperti interior design, architectural design, dan lain sebagainya. Sebagai seorang desainer, kita perlu untuk memperluas dan juga tidak membatasi diri kita sendiri untuk menjadi lebih baik ke depannya. Sekian dari saya. Thank you, so a pleasure to have you with us. I apologize if I had made any mistakes or misspelled any name or degree or any place. Thank you all for attending. We hope you have learned and enjoyed this presentation. Saya akhiri. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye. Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Pak Widyan, pengumumannya hari ini juga. Pengumumannya
bye-bye. Have a nice day. Have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.
Oke, bukannya bisa
Have a nice day.
Berikan pengumuman untuk yang dapat door prize yang penanya tadi.
Sebentar ya Mas. Profilnya udah live.
Pak Widian sambil diingatkan nanti ya untuk pengisian ditutup 12.30 untuk asistensi.
Oke. Teman-teman atau partisipan yang belum mengisi presensi, mohon dilihat di chat Zoom. Ada beberapa link untuk pengisian presensi yang nantinya juga akan ada e-Sertifikat. Itu bisa dilihat di bagian chat. Nah, nanti akan ada waktu untuk itu. Jadi kalau bisa sempat diisi, mohon diisi sekarang sebelum nantinya diakhiri untuk sesi kuliah tamu ini. Mungkin seperti itu, teman-teman. Monggo bisa dilihat.
Oke. Untuk penanya terbaik ada berapa, Mas Widian? Dipilih berapa?
Ada jadinya ada 3 tadi ya. Sama sebentar. Oke, ada 3, yaitu Mas Safir ya.
Itu D4 atau D3?
Safir, terus kemudian Mas Arya sama Mbak Putih sepertinya.
Oke.
Ya. Nanti ditunggu ya, akan saya rekap. Oke, itu Mbak Kanya, monggo bisa diambil alih lagi.
Oke, tampaknya sudah ya Mas Widian, sudah selesai semuanya. Saya ingatkan lagi untuk mengisi presensi yang akan ditutup jam 12.30 nanti. Jadi teman-teman jangan lupa untuk mengisi presensi dan juga sertifikatnya. Saya ucapkan terima kasih banyak kepada panitia yang sudah menyelenggarakan kegiatan hari ini. Kegiatannya luar biasa, sangat bermanfaat ya. Saya harap teman-teman yang lain juga bisa mendapatkan manfaat dari perkuliahan tamu hari ini. Terima kasih untuk Pak Martadi, Bu Santi, Pak Marsudi, dan juga teman-teman dosen yang lain. Terima kasih untuk teman-teman mahasiswa yang sudah bergabung juga. Saya mohon maaf apabila ada kesalahan kata. Saya akhiri, terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Matur nuwun Pak Arif.
Jadi Pak Widian, Putih, Arya, sama siapa tadi?
Safir Al-Haq.
Safir, oke.
Safir,
Ya,
ya.
Pak Widian ya?
Ya, nanti nomornya sudah saya catat kok, Bu.
Oh ya,
Nanti
sudah.
bisa chat ke saya. Ya.
Oke, alhamdulillah sudah selesai. Terima kasih untuk timnya. Loh, Profesor gabung lagi.
Safir, Bu. Safir.
Safir. Ada Safir? Safir ada kok. Apa bisa langsung di end meeting aja? Mana Pak Rois ya?
Oke. Saya stop live stream ya.
Sebentar. Mister Lee-nya mau ngasih Pinterest tuh, apa namanya, link lagi.
Oh, Profesor.
Kasih linknya. Kasih link apa itu?
Pinterest.
Bye.
Pak, Bu, makasih ya.
Terima kasih.
Sama-sama.
Terima kasih. Ini udah boleh live kan ya?
Boleh. Kalau sudah ngisi, monggo bisa di live.
Ya, makasih. Ini tadi nyambi KKN, Pak.
KKN ya, Bud?
Iya.
KKN.
Iya, tadi sambil dengerin.
Ya, terima kasih Putih ya. Terima
Ya,
kasih
sama-sama.
Putih yang sudah gabung. Nggak apa-apa, silakan Li, sudah selesai. Ini Pak Roisnya mana? Apa bisa di meeting langsung aja? Apa?
Bisa.
Dia nih yang end meeting ya.
Sebentar. Ya.
Oke.